To some, she was just another pregnant black woman driving a nice car. To one cop, that was already a crime. But what she didn't know was who she'd just pulled over, and what was about to unfold would be heard across the country. Before we dive deeper into this shocking story, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And if you're into gripping stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. It was a clear afternoon in Crestwood Heights, the kind of neighborhood where porch flags fluttered in perfect rows, and the air always smelled like fresh-cut grass and quiet privilege. A black Range Rover glided down the street, windows rolled halfway, soft jazz playing from the speakers. Behind the wheel sat Naomi Carter, 7 months pregnant, her left hand gently resting on her belly. She wore a modest cream maternity dress, her hair pulled into a low bun. She had just left her third prenatal appointment of the month. The doctor said everything was normal, but nothing about what was about to happen next would be. Naomi signaled to turn into her neighborhood when the red and blue lights appeared in her rearview mirror. Sudden, blinding, and jarring. She blinked, confused. She hadn't been speeding. She wasn't on her phone. Still, she pulled over. The police cruiser stopped inches from her bumper. Naomi's heartbeat sped up. She rolled down her window, took a slow breath, and kept her hands visible on the wheel. From the driver's seat of the squad car stepped Officer Melissa Grant, mid-40s, white, with sharp eyes and the posture of someone used to being obeyed. Her badge gleamed in the sun. Her walk was aggressive, not cautious, like she'd already made up her mind. She approached the driver's side window with her hand resting on the butt of her holstered weapon. "License and registration," she said flatly. "Now." Naomi nodded politely and handed both over without a word. Officer Grant barely glanced at the license. "This your car?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." A pause. Melissa's eyes scanned the vehicle, then flicked back to Naomi. "Interesting," she said, clearly unimpressed. "Mind stepping out for me?" Naomi blinked. "Is there a problem, officer?" "Step out of the vehicle." The tone dropped half an octave. Naomi sighed and slowly unbuckled her seatbelt. She opened the door and carefully stepped out, mindful of her belly. The air felt different now, stiff with tension. A lawn sprinkler clicked nearby like a ticking clock. Melissa circled the SUV, squinting at the plates, then back at Naomi. "You live around here?" she asked. "Yes, just 2 blocks over. I was heading home." Melissa cocked her head. "Funny, I patrol this area every day. Don't think I've seen you before." Naomi kept her expression neutral. "We moved in last year, my husband and I." Melissa folded her arms, scanning Naomi from head to toe. "This car's registered to a Julian Carter. That's my husband." Melissa's eyes narrowed. "And you expect me to believe he let you drive this without him?" Naomi's jaw tightened. "Is there something specific I'm being stopped for?" The officer ignored the question. She walked toward the trunk and knocked it with the back of her hand. "Open it," she demanded. Naomi hesitated. "Officer, I don't consent to a search." Melissa's hand moved back to her holster. "I said open it, unless you have something to hide." Naomi's stomach twisted. Her baby kicked hard. She pressed her palm to her belly instinctively. "I'm pregnant," she said calmly, "and I've done nothing wrong." Melissa chuckled under her breath. "Yeah, I'll be the judge of that." Naomi opened the trunk. Melissa peeked in, poked through a diaper bag and a small box of prenatal vitamins. She found nothing. Then she turned, eyes sharper now, voice louder. "Put your hands on the hood." Naomi looked stunned. "Excuse me?" "You heard me, but I'm 7 months pregnant." "Then you better be careful how you move." Across the street, a white man paused while mowing his lawn. A woman walking her golden retriever slowed down. They didn't speak. They just watched. Naomi slowly approached the front of the SUV, her hands trembling slightly. She placed them flat on the hood. Melissa stepped behind her, one hand still on her holster, the other near her cuffs. "Let me guess," she muttered. "Baby daddy's not in the picture. Probably some court case pending. That right?" Naomi turned her head slightly. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You don't know who I am," Melissa scoffed. "Oh, honey, I know exactly what you are." And then she reached for the handcuffs. "One more time," Melissa snapped. "Hands where I can see them. Pregnant or not, I'll make you regret it." "You have—" Naomi didn't flinch. But across the street, a phone camera was already recording. And something in the distance, a black car fast approaching, was about to change everything. Naomi Carter stood still, her palms pressed against the warm hood of the SUV, her belly round and high under her dress. Her breath came shallow now, more from restraint than fear. Across the street, the quiet onlookers hadn't moved. A lawnmower engine had gone silent. The woman with the golden retriever paused mid-stride. Someone, no one could tell who, was holding up a phone and filming now. Officer Melissa Grant stood behind Naomi, her fingers grazing the handcuffs on her belt like they were an extension of her ego. "Tell me," she said with a smirk, "how does a woman like you afford a $90,000 vehicle? Government assistance? Maybe that little child tax credit working overtime?" Naomi didn't answer. Instead, she stared straight ahead at the empty street. In the distance, the shape of a dark sedan was approaching. Fast, purposeful, she didn't flinch, but her heart quickened, not from fear, from something deeper. Relief, but not for herself, for what was coming next. "Nothing to say?" Melissa prodded. Naomi shifted slightly. "I told you, this is my husband's vehicle. We live just up the street. I'm pregnant and I've done absolutely nothing wrong." Melissa chuckled. "Ain't that funny? You people always got an explanation ready." The phrase hit like a slap, but Naomi didn't move. Her baby kicked again, this time harder. Her lower back ached. Her legs trembled from standing too long. "You're shaking," Melissa said. "Guilt does that." Naomi turned slightly, her eyes calm but hard. "Pregnancy does that." Melissa stepped closer. "I'm not done with you." Suddenly, the black sedan pulled up behind the squad car. It was spotless. Tinted windows, federal plates. Melissa froze for a second, then quickly masked it with authority. The driver door opened, and out stepped a tall black man in a tailored charcoal grey suit. Clean-shaven, calm stride. No fear in his eyes. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't reach for anything. He just walked up slowly and said, "Step away from my wife. Now." Melissa turned, squinting, hands instinctively near her weapon. "Excuse me, sir, this is a police matter." The man held up a leather badge wallet with gold lettering. "I'm special counsel to the U.S. Attorney's Office, Federal Civil Rights Division, and that woman you just harassed for the past 10 minutes is Assistant District Attorney Naomi Carter, 7 months pregnant, and currently suffering from hypertension, aggravated by your illegal detainment." Melissa blinked. "ADA. Carter?" Naomi finally turned around, her hands still half raised, her gaze locked on Melissa's pale face. The neighbours were now all watching and filming. The man took 2 steps forward. "We have everything recorded, including your unlawful search and threatening conduct." Melissa's voice wavered. "Sir, I didn't realize." "That," the man said coolly, "is exactly the problem." Before Melissa could respond, the second cruiser she called earlier pulled onto the scene. A younger white male officer stepped out, Officer Brian Wallace, visibly tense as he took in the sight. Melissa quickly turned to him. "I've got this handled." Wallace looked between the suit, Naomi, and Melissa. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Naomi didn't answer right away. The man beside her nodded. "She will be, once we get her blood pressure checked and file the formal complaint." Naomi slowly stepped back toward her husband. Her voice was even but sharp. "She forced me to stand in the heat, refused to let me sit, accused me of stealing my own car, made racially charged comments, and she was about to put me in cuffs." Brian Wallace swallowed hard. "Did you say she's a district attorney?" Melissa shifted uneasily. The man, Julian Carter, didn't blink. "Oh, she's more than that. She's the lead prosecutor on the city's largest public corruption case in 20 years. You might have seen it in the news." Brian looked stunned. Julian stepped closer to Melissa. His voice didn't rise, but his words cut. "You pulled over a pregnant black woman for looking suspicious. You searched her without probable cause, and you made her stand for 10 minutes under threat, all because you didn't think someone like her belonged in this neighborhood or behind that wheel." Melissa tried to speak. "Sir, I didn't." Julian stepped in just a breath closer. "Don't. You dare." Melissa froze. Naomi, breathing heavier now, leaned against Julian's arm. He gently held her. "You okay?" he whispered. She nodded faintly. "I just want to sit, please." He turned back to Officer Wallace. "I'm requesting immediate medical assistance, and I'm reporting Officer Grant for misconduct, racial profiling, unlawful search, and reckless endangerment of a pregnant woman." Brian hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "I'll call it in." Julian held up his phone. "Already did." Suddenly, a third vehicle pulled into view. This time, it wasn't a police cruiser. It was a black government SUV, with tinted windows and a gold federal seal on the side. Julian's eyes narrowed. That's the chief. She must have seen the live stream. Melissa turned pale. The situation had officially spiraled beyond her control. The black SUV rolled to a slow, deliberate stop behind the other two cruisers. Its engine idled like a growl beneath the tension in the air. The seal on the door gleamed in the afternoon sun. Federal Department of Justice. Officer Melissa Grant took one shaky step back. Julian Carter didn't flinch. He calmly turned toward the vehicle as the back door opened and a tall black woman in a navy pantsuit stepped out, her heels striking the pavement with precision. She wore no visible weapon, no uniform. Just quiet authority and a federal badge clipped to her blazer. She walked toward the group like she already knew everything that happened. "Special Counsel Carter," she said, addressing Julian with a nod. Then her eyes moved to Naomi. "Ada Carter, you all right?" Naomi, seated now on the curb, leaned back against the SUV, both hands bracing her stomach. Her face was pale and her breathing shallow. "I'm not okay," she said softly. "I need water, and I need to lie down." Julian crouched beside her instantly. "Her blood pressure's spiking. I need EMTs here now." The DOJ agent, Director Simone Ellis, turned to Officer Brian Wallace. "Why haven't paramedics been called?" he stammered. I thought Officer Grant was handling—" "She isn't handling anything," Director Ellis snapped. "Make the call. Right now." Wallace rushed to his radio. Officer Grant's voice cracked as she tried to salvage control. "Director Ellis, this whole thing has been a misunderstanding. The woman was driving a high-end vehicle in a suspicious area." Simone Ellis raised a hand. The silence that followed was deafening. "Let me be clear, Officer Grant," she said. "You initiated an unauthorized stop, illegally searched private property, and threatened a visibly pregnant woman with physical restraint, and now you're lying." "I wasn't. You were." Simone pulled out a phone, held up to play a video. Naomi's voice was on the recording. So was Melissa's. "You don't know who I am." "Oh, honey, I know exactly what you are." The audio hung in the air like smoke. Melissa's face drained of color. Julian rose to his feet, standing beside Simone now. His voice was low, deliberate. "You people don't belong here. Turn around or I'll make you regret it." That's what she said to my wife, an assistant district attorney. "And you want to call this a misunderstanding?" "Please," Melissa murmured. "I didn't know who she was." Simone Ellis turned sharply. "That's the problem. You saw a black woman in a nice car and decided she had to be a criminal." Naomi, still seated, looked up. Her eyes were tired but sharp. "She wouldn't even let me sit down. She said I was faking, that the pain was in my head." Simone's jaw clenched. "Did she touch you?" "No," Naomi whispered, "but she wanted to. I could feel it. She was waiting for a reason." Just then, the distant wail of a siren drew closer. An ambulance appeared at the end of the block, turning sharply onto the scene. Melissa stared, frozen in place. Simone glanced at Wallace. "I want a full written report by the end of the day. Body cam footage, dashboard recordings, everything. And you," she pointed at Melissa, "are to surrender your badge and firearm immediately." Melissa flinched. "Wait, you can't." "I can, and I just did." As Wallace reluctantly walked toward her to collect her weapon, Melissa's voice cracked. "I've served this city for 20 years. Julian's eyes narrowed. "And you just undid all of it in 10 minutes. Paramedics rushed to Naomi's side, lifting her gently onto a stretcher. Julian stayed close, holding her hand the entire time. Director Ellis walked beside them as they rolled toward the ambulance. Her voice dropped. "She's going to be okay," Simone said, "but we're not letting this go." Julian nodded. "Neither are we." As Naomi was lifted into the ambulance, one of the medics suddenly paused. His eyes widened. He turned to Julian. "Sir, she's in early labor." Julian's heart stopped. Naomi's eyes fluttered open and her voice broke through the rising panic. "Tell me she's going to be all right. Tell me my baby girl's going to be okay." Naomi's eyes fluttered open again beneath the fluorescent lights of the ambulance cabin. Her hands clenched the sheets beneath her as a wave of pain surged through her abdomen. Julian sat beside her, still in his suit, gripping her hand tightly, trying not to let the fear show on his face. "Breathe, baby. Just breathe. We're almost there," he whispered, his voice cracking. The medic across from them was speaking into his headset rapidly. "Patient is 34-year-old female, 7 months pregnant. Experiencing early contractions and elevated blood pressure. Requesting immediate OBGYN team on standby. ETA. 4 minutes. Naomi gritted her teeth. Julian, he leaned in. I'm right here. Tears slipped from the corner of her eyes. Promise me, if anything happens to me, you'll protect her. Promise me. He shook his head. Don't say that. You're both going to be fine. The medic's tone turned urgent. Sir, we need to stabilize her blood pressure now, or this could become critical. Naomi's fingers gripped Julian's hand tighter. Back at the scene, Officer Melissa Grant stood in stunned silence as her firearm and badge were collected by Officer Wallace. Her face had gone ghostly pale, sweat building under her collar. The street was now lined with parked cars, people watching from porches and sidewalks. Phones still recorded. The story had already begun to circulate online. Pregnant black ADA harassed by cop in her own neighborhood. And it hadn't even reached the news cycle yet. Director Simone Ellis stood to the side, speaking into her own secure phone. Yes, I need a federal liaison sent to St. Bridget's Medical Center. ADA Naomi Carter is in emergency labor. Yes, I'll send a federal protection detail too. No, this is not just a local story anymore. She hung up. Then she turned back to Melissa. Hope your pension was worth it, Simone said flatly, because when this goes to court, they're not just naming you, they're naming the department. Melissa's lip trembled. This wasn't supposed to happen. No, Simone replied coldly, it never is. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Naomi was wheeled through a maze of white hallways, her bed flanked by 2 nurses and Julian at her side. Monitors beeped wildly. The OBGYN, a black woman in her 50s with calm eyes, met them at the emergency delivery room. I'm Dr. Aduba, she said. We're doing everything we can. But the stress has induced early labor. Your daughter's heart rate is elevated, and your wife's pressure is dangerously high. Julian's heart sank. What does that mean? It means we may need to deliver this baby tonight. Naomi moaned in pain as another contraction hit her. Dr. Aduba turned to her team. Get her on magnesium. I want vitals monitored by the minute. Let's move. As they prepped for possible emergency C-section, Julian stepped aside, his hands shaking. Just then, his phone rang. Caller ID CNN News Desk. He didn't answer. Another call came in, this time from the mayor's office. The story was already catching fire. Back at the precinct, Melissa was escorted into an internal affairs room. Cold walls, 1 chair, 1 camera. Across from her sat Deputy Chief Harold Downs, an aging white man with tired eyes. He didn't look angry. He looked done. You know who she was? He asked. Melissa didn't speak. She was the lead on the Western corruption case, the one our mayor's brother was caught in. You know what this means? Still silence. It means every defense attorney in this state is going to claim bias. Every case she touched will be scrutinized, and all because you couldn't hold your tongue for 10 damn minutes. Melissa's face twitched. She didn't look like she belonged, she finally muttered. Harold stood. You don't either. Not anymore. Back at the hospital, Naomi's eyes opened slowly. Julian was beside her again. The room was quiet. The machines beeped steadily. You're okay, he whispered. They stopped the labor for now. She blinked at him. Our daughter? She asked. He smiled for the first time in hours. Still safe, still strong, just like her mama. Naomi exhaled and turned to stare at the ceiling. Did she get suspended? Julian nodded, pending full investigation. But that's not all. He opened his tablet and turned it toward her. Naomi's tired eyes widened slightly. There it was, the video, front page of CNN, trending on Twitter, shared by activists, lawyers, even celebrities. Pregnant black ADA harassed by white cop while driving home from hospital. She tried to reduce you to a stereotype, Julian said, but now the whole country knows exactly who you are. Naomi blinked back tears, but not from pain, from validation, from being seen. Just as Julian leaned over to kiss her forehead, a knock came at the door. A nurse stepped in, whispering urgently, There's someone here asking for you. Says she's family, but it's Officer Melissa Grant. Julian froze. Naomi turned slowly toward the door. Let her in. The hospital room door creaked open. Naomi Carter shifted slightly in the bed, her breathing now steady, her eyes sharp despite the fatigue. Julian stood protectively at her side as Officer Melissa Grant stepped inside, her uniform gone, her badge surrendered, her posture cracked but defiant. The door clicked shut behind her. For a moment, the only sound was the soft beep of Naomi's heart monitor. Melissa's eyes darted toward the machines, toward Julian, then back to Naomi. She cleared her throat. I didn't come to fight. Julian didn't move. Melissa continued, her voice low but laced with a desperate edge. I came to apologize. Naomi said nothing. Melissa's words tumbled out quickly, clumsy and unsteady. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know you were somebody. Naomi finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm. So if I wasn't somebody, would I still be sitting in that heat? Still be in cuffs? Still be a threat to you? Melissa's face twitched. Naomi continued, the real question is, what would you have done if I didn't have the right husband? The right badge, the right connections? Would I still be here? Would my daughter? Melissa's throat bobbed as she swallowed. I didn't mean for it to get that far. You didn't mean for it to get caught, Naomi corrected softly. Melissa looked down. People like me, we get trained to see threats. That's how we're taught. Certain cars, certain neighborhoods, certain people. Naomi's voice never rose. And what does that make people like me? A profile? A training scenario? Melissa's silence was her answer. Julian's fists tightened at his sides. Naomi slowly sat up straighter. You came here for forgiveness. Melissa's gaze flicked toward the floor. But forgiveness isn't something you get to ask for when you only came because you lost your badge. Melissa's breath hitched. Then why did you let me in? Naomi's eyes sharpened. Because I wanted you to see me, sitting here, alive, strong, unbroken, and I wanted you to hear this, directly from me. Melissa's eyes met hers reluctantly. Naomi's next words were like a gavel striking. I forgive you, but I will never forget you. And neither will the country. You see, I don't need to ruin you. You've already done that yourself. I just needed to make sure you knew my name. Melissa's breathing faltered. Naomi's voice softened, almost a whisper. Say it. Melissa blinked. What? Say my name. A long silence passed. Melissa's voice finally cracked. Naomi Carter. Naomi's eyes didn't flinch. Don't ever forget it. Melissa's lip trembled. She turned quickly and walked out of the room, the door closing behind her with a hollow thud. Julian let out a breath he'd been holding for too long. Naomi's gaze lingered on the door. Let her go, she said softly. That's the last time she'll ever have power over me. Julian sat beside her, pressing his forehead to her hand. The news just released the full body cam footage. Naomi smiled faintly. Good. She's already trending. She'll fade, Naomi said, her eyes softening as she rested her hand on her belly. But our daughter's story won't. She'll know what her mother stood for. Julian's voice thickened. And what's that? Naomi smiled gently. That even when the world reduces you to a statistic, your name still matters. They tried to humiliate her, tried to make her small, but when the story was over, it wasn't the uniform they remembered, it was her name. Naomi Carter, the name she'll never forget, and now, neither will we. Lessons learned. Sometimes, it's not about raising your voice. It's about knowing your worth, about standing tall when the world tries to shrink you. Naomi Carter didn't have to scream. She didn't have to fight back with fists. She fought with her presence, her patience, and her name. The lesson? Never judge someone by what you think they are, because the moment you do, you just might run into someone whose story is bigger than you can imagine. Have you ever faced a situation where you were misjudged? Where someone saw your skin, your clothes, your car, and decided you didn't belong? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if you were touched by Naomi's journey, if stories like this speak to your heart, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Untold Touching Stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story that deserves to be told. Because here, your story will always matter. Thank you for watching.